Moving into our next presentation here titled The Benefits of Using Asset Hierarchy within Blue Mountain RAM. We have Dennis Wood as the presenter here, and he's the manager of Blue Mountain RAM at Allogene Therapeutics. He spent 18 years in maintenance as a maintenance technician / planner within the biotech industry. He spent 10 years as a Blue Mountain administrator. He enjoys nature photography, hiking, and road trips. Welcome, Dennis, and thank you for presenting today.
Oh, thank you. Just share my screen here. Can everybody see my screen?
Looks good on my end.
It's good. Okay, great. Again, yeah, thank you. And so far, it's been great presentation. I've got a lot out of it so far. Looking forward to tomorrow's R4 discussions. So yes, my name is Dennis Wood. I work with Blue Mountain for quite a while now with several different companies, and it's a great tool to use. I'm going to be discussing system hierarchy within Blue Mountain. It's I've listened to all of the training that Blue Mountain has provided during this shelter in place for the last few months, and I really appreciate them putting that training out there. I hope everybody's using it. One area that I kind of saw that I had a lot of questions about that I dug into was hierarchy, and wanted to kind of share some of the things that I'd like to do with it here and some of the things that we're doing with our company. My first question was a poll question just to see how many people are actually using hierarchy functionality in your data sets. And I don't know if we have that.
All right, Dennis, just give me 1 second here. I will share this. Again, this, the same kind of polling applies if you're on the right version of the Zoom desktop app, then you'll be able to participate. But if you're joined via a web browser or a mobile device, you will not likely see the polls. And Dennis, I can, once we have a chunk of the attendees that voted in here, I will share the results so that you and the rest of the audience can see it here. So we're just about half of the attendees have voted so far. So we'll just give it another second or so. All right, so you have 74 responses here. I'm going to close the poll and then share the results so you'll be able to see it. Okay. Everyone should be able to see those poll results. Dennis, can you see those?
Yes, great. Looks like 68% are using it in some form or another. Well, hopefully in the next few minutes I can share what we do and what we can do, and maybe I can get some feedback from other people as to how they're using hierarchy. There's a few of the topics will be coming. Basically, what is hierarchy and why use root systems assets, and then how to identify your system hierarchy. A little bit about building it. If I have time, I'd like to do a little demo in our validation environment if possible. And I'd discuss the detailed reports that you can get from Blue Mountain for your system hierarchy and structure. And then something that at the end we'll discuss using system assets. And it sounds like and I could be wrong, but in R4, I heard something earlier where perhaps location assets might obtain hierarchy functionality moving forward in R4. Is that what I heard, or is that possible?
So yeah, I'll take that. So location assets actually technically have hierarchy now. You have the location model in R3, then you have the location assets, which you can choose to use location assets or not, and obviously the hierarchy itself. What's going to be new is that particular hierarchy structure was really intended to be a physical hierarchy, but we found some customers saying, hey, I have this functional location hierarchy, which is different, and how do I track that in RAM? And so we often saw the customers would choose to use the hierarchy for that purpose, for functional location hierarchies, and they might use a pick list field for physical. So we've introduced the ability to actually have both hierarchies, side by side with an asset, a physical and a functional, and there's some other hierarchies in there as well. But that's new in R4, I should say.
You're referring to the Location Explorer, I assume, in R3. Is that what you're for the breakdown of the hierarchy? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And this is straight out of the user's manual. Hierarchy is a feature to the visual display of a system and all of its members, subsystems, and subsystem members. Only equipment and system assets can utilize the hierarchy feature, the one that we're discussing today, not the Location Explorer. The hierarchy feature is both a visual representation of a system and a tool for building that visual representation. And as the name hierarchy implies, a system can be multi-level, and this is achieved through listing of one system within another. The top level system is called a root system, and the lower level systems are subsystems. So this is just to show you basically what you can do. You start out with a root system, and we've chosen to end our asset ID with a -R. It helps to identify the root system. It also helps in querying. And then here's some examples of what you might have for a root system: a building electrical system, a pure water system, a site fire and security systems, or, let's say you wanted to lump all of your LN2 freezers or a specific type of asset into one system. There's some benefits to doing that and creating a root system for that. And then you, of course, have the subsystems, which we've chosen to use a -S to represent the subsystems, which would be, you can see here, normal power, emergency power would be under your root system. Your pure water generation system and distribution systems would be subsystems. And again, your individual LN2 freezers, as an example, would be a subsystem. And then you would have your equipment assets within that subsystem. And your examples, again, would be, all your instruments associated with that system, any pumps, basically anything that you're going to enroll in Blue Mountain that would fit under that control. And then again, you can have multiple subsystems, obviously, under a root system, which we'll show. So why use root system assets? We found that it's a great repository for some of your larger files, or if you want to capture validation, periodic reviews for asset types, they can be a document repository for that that's easy to locate and easy to retrieve. Any sort of general work events for SOP reviews or anything like that could be captured at that level. General work events for vendor service contract renewals could be captured in that. Single change requests for system level admin changes like asset owner or location or criticality. You could write the work order against the system asset to capture all of its children. It can save you a lot of time there. And like I said, it serves as a repository for system level documents. Again, the benefits: there's no limit to the number of subsystems or children assets that can exist within a system. It's a quick access to look at all the work orders performed on assets within that system. As you know, you can go to the system level and look at all work that's been performed on any of the child assets within that system. And again, it's an easy access to related documents while minimizing the number of large attachments that you keep in your data set. So here's an example. We use the root system, again with the -R. And this particular one represents all of the Worthington LN2 freezers. There's 4 of them, you can see. And it allows for easy search and querying within the systems. And the system elements, this is how you'd identify them. You have these, and I'll show these in a second. You have a system element icon, which gives it the ability to be in a system. And you have the icon that shows that it is in a system. And then you have the icon to show that it's in multiple systems. And that's depending on your organization's setup. You assets can be in multiple hierarchies, and I don't have that, but I've been weighing the pros and cons of it. I'd be curious to listen to anybody that has multiple system ability. And just to show you right here, we have the system element. In order to become a system element, this system element box has to be checked. And then you would have your two icons here showing that in this case, this one is a system element because it's checked and it is in a system. And for a system record, it's very much the same way. You got the system element, and if it's a system record and you don't have a root system above it, that wouldn't need to be checked, but it doesn't hurt to be checked. So I always check them unless they're at the root level. And again, you have the same icons, again, showing you that information. So to view your hierarchy, you simply click on the View button, Hierarchy, and it'll show you all of the assets within it. Once the hierarchy is constructed, the system hierarchy can be viewed from any of the member records, any of the child records, purely informational and read-only though. If any modifications to the system hierarchy are needed, you have to go to the root system to do that, or the parent system to do that, excuse me. So to build your hierarchy, you want to determine what is gonna make up the system. You can use system drawings and P&IDs. Here's an example of a temperature control unit that is the system, and then you'd have instruments within that system that would be your equipment. And many people also use the system boundary drawings that they might have. There's other ways. Again, another method is to use, as I was saying earlier, to select all of the particular type of assets that are in a system that are within your company in the same type of asset. Here's an example of a multi-level system that we have. So you have the root system, and then this showing all the children and then their children. And from within Blue Mountain, you can also, this is a handy way to jump between assets. If you go to your system hierarchy and you're on one of the children, you can just right click and view the component record for any of the other assets that are in the record. It's a really handy way to navigate around. And also when you're looking, if you're in a system record or a equipment record and you want to look at the operating manual for that piece of equipment, you can click on the hierarchy and go to the root system, and it would be stored there along with other documentation. And this example of what the root system detail report would look like. Again, it's the -R, and we're capturing under this root system. You can see we have an annual vendor contact renewal that will trigger for whatever clump of assets you have to say, hey, it's time to address the renewing the contract. And then also you can have validation events against a group of assets for your periodic reviews. And then it shows your all of your system level assets and links to them if you want to, and you can just jump to those. That's the root system. The system level, very much the same. It shows all the children that are listed in that system level. And if there were any PMs against that system, they would be listed here as well. And then I have one more poll question, and this might be a little bit vague, but I'd like to know if anybody's using the creating equipment assets or system assets for equipment or location, excuse me, for locations to give them that ability to use the hierarchy function, which I'll show momentarily. I hope that makes sense.
I did open up that poll question, and some of the results are coming in now, and I can share it. We'll just allow a little bit more time for people to answer.
Okay.
we have about 30% of people have responded so far. If you see the poll window, just feel free to click one of those options. Okay, we'll just give it about 5 more seconds and then we'll close it. All right, so you should now see the results.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so nearly half of the people are using. That's great. Again, I'd like to hear some information on that. So you can create system assets for locations. If you have, let's say, a manufacturing suite that's made up of multiple rooms, interlocks, personal interlocks, equipment interlocks, airlocks, then you can create an asset basically that captures all of these different suites or rooms within one asset. And it can also be used if you have a common air handler supply for doing HEPA certs. You could have an asset that captures a room or a suite's worth of HEPA certs, HEPA filters to do PMs on. Cleaning zones is a big one that we're going to use. And then also you can have by area owner for purposes of reviewing things like that. And again, want to note that location type assets don't have this functionality currently, but they may very soon. This is an example of one. So we have a fill suite, and then we have child locations underneath it, and these are also rooms that are also equipment assets or system assets set up themselves. And again, your child assets here, they could be equipment or systems. I chose system assets, which gives me some future flexibility should I decide to use that room as a system to have children within it. So it kind of gives you that flexibility. And as you know, once you create the asset as a system or as equipment, you're kind of stuck with it. It's not something that you can easily just flip over and change it to a system. Then your location-based parent system detail report would look something possibly like this, where in this case we have our fill suite and we have all of our cleaning PMs set up within that suite, and it also lists all of the rooms that are captured within that asset. So you know, just by looking at it, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the rooms we're doing it on, and your work plan templates would be built specific to each of these. Is there any questions that I have to go in and show a live demo if there's no questions right now? Okay. I see somebody hierarchy will only work under systems, not equipment. That is true.
Here's a question that came in. It says, "Hi Dennis, are you using events to perform your periodic reviews?"
That would be the plan, yes, to have scheduled events set up in place with to capture the periodic reviews for all of the assets that would fall underneath that root system or parent system.
Then we have another question that came in. What is a system membership on the CERT?
What is the system membership on the CERT?
I don't know, Paul, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit. Or
yeah, what are you saying there, Paul?
On the CERT report.
Yeah, right there in that screen. So it says system membership. It says no system membership. I've never noticed that before. I just didn't know what it was about, if anybody could elaborate on it.
Well,
this is Nick Stroniolo. I believe that pulls in if that system is a member of a higher system. So if you have a multi-level hierarchy.
If this wasn't the parent root system, then you would see something there. For example, if I ran it on one of my freezers I showed earlier, it would show the system membership being the -R, and it would show the equipment or the instruments associated with that freezer as system members. I believe that's the way it's set up. I can't show it here now, but I believe that's what it is. It's not a member of any systems, but it has systems within it.
Thank you.
You need to log in here somehow. So the first one thing I wanted to point out here, so here's my -R. This is my root system for all of the freezers of this type. And then I can go to view my hierarchy. And there you can see them there. And then I wanted to show an example of a system. And one of the things, so if I'm in here doing my temperature transmitter and I'm doing a calibration or something on it, and if I want to quickly just navigate to some documentation that I might have stored, I can go to my hierarchy and I can go, okay, let me look here, go to my view my component record, and that brings up this, and then I just go to view my links, and there I have, there's a PNID for this system, there's the operating manual for this system, and then you can just click on those, and it gives you quick access, and it saves you from, I've been to places where they'll store the O&M on every asset record basically, and that can take up a lot of room. But this gives you quick access to do that, amongst other things.
There's a question that came in here, Dennis. Can you show a similar way where you would access an uploaded periodic review or validation?
I see what you're saying. I don't have an example, but here in the, if I go to the root system, there you go. You can view work, and this, there's nothing here. Again, this is my validation environment, but it would show any work that's been performed on any of the assets, and you would go through here, and I would just look for validation work orders that were underneath the system, and you would easily find them, because this will show any work performed on any of the children. Basically, any work performed on any of these freezers will show up here. I would look for my newest validation work order, and I would find it there. Does that answer your question? I hope. And then the last thing I just want to demonstrate for those of you that may not have used it or seen it is just quickly show you how to build one, if I can find it. So here I have, and again, I'm showing in my demonstration here, I'm showing this flag represents that it's in a system. So you can see I have some equipment that's not in a system. It looks like the O202. So I would go to my O202 system. And again, you have to put it in edit mode. View your hierarchy. My screen's kind of messed up. View hierarchy. Sorry. There we go. And then I'll add, and I'm going to filter, for example, in this case, contains 0202. Oops, not 2020. And these are my options here. These are the children associated with. So you just basically double click. And there they are. Now they show up in there. And likewise, you can remove them just the same way. And I wanted to point out here while I'm on this screen, so this is showing my current route. If you're in an environment where you have multiple ability to have multiple hierarchies, you just from here you would just click on the next one. If you had one for, let's say this particular one is for this, you might have another hierarchy built for asset owner and or something like that, and then you would it would show that hierarchy that this particular instrument is in. And that basically is it, except for questions and answers. If anybody has anything, I hope, I'd like to hear from anybody else how they're using hierarchy, some examples, and maybe I can learn something and we can share if anybody has anything.
Thank you so much, Dennis. As always, we very much appreciate our customer presenters. If anybody has any questions for Dennis, feel free you can unmute yourself, or you can certainly type it in to the chat box, and I'll continue to kind of monitor it here. A couple of comments. Paul says the system record is where the event is attached to perform the work. So this is where the work is accessed. Loops work differently. He then says this was great, which I agree.
Thanks, Scott.
Another question, an actual question came in here. Can we customize, add, or remove the column?
Was that within, that might, sorry, let me get back to that. I'm not sure what the question was exactly, but are we referring to, when we're looking at the hierarchy, or what are we referring to there? Can we customize that column? Maybe Thao can chime in on that.
I'm referring to the column that appears in Blue Mountain RAM. Asset ID, status, asset type, etc.
Well, sure. You mean by editing the query? I'm really. Yeah, I'd like the people to speak up because I'm not sure what they're referring to. They're adding removing columns in my query, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, feel free if you ask the question that you can unmute yourself, or type in the more detail. But
and Paul, I agree with Paul. Yeah, this is not a queryable field, but it is. And it may be in R4 if you're referring to the just running a query to look at your hierarchy. The only place currently to really get a visual of your hierarchy is within the asset record to do it here. And that's it. You can't, to my knowledge, you can't export this and run a query to show that at this time. Maybe that'll be something new. Okay.
It looks like that's all the questions you have for now, Dennis. Again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Of course, I say that, and in comes a question here. Are you up for another question, Dennis?
Sure, why not?
If a system hierarchy is not predefined during procurement, how can one use the hierarchy function to indicate that a component equipment in a system is now a subsystem? Does an asset need to be designated as a system to be able to see the hierarchy?
Yes. Well, once it's in the system, so for example, if it's not in a system, you won't even see this option pop up here for hierarchy if it's not in a system. So it kind of Right now I'm on the equipment level, and I can see the hierarchy, and I can bounce back and forth between things, but it, yeah, I'm not sure. It needs to be designated as a system in order to be a system. And like I said earlier, when you're enrolling it, you know, you have to give consideration to, is it a system? Is it going to potentially have children? Does it have children? And at the time of enrollment is the time to determine what its children are and break it out, and as you're building your system from the ground. If you have a system that's already in place and you want to use hierarchy, you're limited by if it was enrolled as a system or not. If it was enrolled as a system and you want to make it a child, it still can be by creating a root system above it to capture it. But again, it has to be enrolled as a system to have children. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And then Paul makes a comment here that he wants to make a quick comment. So,
No.
Paul.
No.
Yeah, just at Kite, we looked at a solution, may not be the best solution, but we added a text field to the asset record called functional location. And that field, we have a document created to how to create a functional location string, which is queryable. A text field is queryable. So you could, you know, use Blue Mountain like it's structured now with the text field to use the query function and find a list of assets like you see in a query. Maybe not the best solution, but I know R4 will have some better ideas, I'm sure.
I do recall that. That's like a location string, right? Some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah,
Correct.
that's a good way to, if you have the ability to do that, that's an option too.
Yeah, this is Keith, Paul. One of the things I can add to that, let me turn my video on, to an R4 with the hierarchy, although it won't be there right away. With the query engine, we're working on introducing an under operator in there to handle this, to say, allow users to write a query to say, for this system, show me all my subcomponents that are underneath me. That's something that we're working towards. It won't be in the initial launch, but as is the case today, you can get to that information in that way via report. You can certainly drill down in the hierarchy, as you see, kind of similar to what you're seeing here. We would drill down into its subcomponents as well. But if you're looking to kind of roll that information up, we're actually, not too far off from being able to offer that in the query engine.
Don't tease us, Keith.
It looks like that might be all the questions for right now. But Dennis, you are planning on joining our breakout session. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
And so if you have any further questions for Dennis, definitely come to the breakout session. Those will be a good time to really get into the specifics with that.
Okay, thank you very much.